Thanks for listening. This is Brian Hurley from Business Performance Improvement. The podcast Lean Six Sigma Bursts are short lessons, comments, Q&A, and insights. If you have a question, send your question through the Anchor app, and we might feature you on a future episode. Or contact me at biz-pi.com. Today I wanted to walk through a couple acronyms that can help you brainstorm or think about improvements to a process. First one is called ECRS, and the second one is called SPACER. There's actually a few different acronyms that are related to that one that we'll expand on. I'm going to go through and review a few of these different glossary terms and items from the Lean Six Sigma Definition.com website. So I'll do those over the next couple weeks. So let's start with ECRS. It's an acronym. It stands for Eliminate, Combine, Rearrange, and Simplify. So under Eliminate, obviously we want to look at the steps and the details of the work that we could eliminate or remove. That's a great starting point for any kind of process improvement, is to look for the non-value added steps and remove them out of the way so you don't have to do them anymore. That's probably the quickest way we can make improvements, is by stop doing wasteful activities. C is combine. If you can't eliminate it, then we want to combine steps together. Instead of there being a handoff from one group to another, could that one person take both those tasks on and complete them at the same time? Or can they be done in parallel? So you start one of the tasks, you work on the other one, and while that one's processing, you can complete the steps and they both get done at the same time. So the next one, R, is rearrange. So can the work be done in a different order or sequence that can be faster, easier, or safer? So maybe there's an operation that if you do the second step first and the first step second, that can go a little faster and easier. And we'll do that a lot of times. We'll have people just experiment with different approaches and different ideas. And you might see that when you're comparing multiple people doing the same task, you might see that one person can do it a little faster, and it's just the order of the operations. So it's still being done the proper way, but they found a shortcut that is much better and faster, or even just safer. And so safer may be the goal. Even if you go a little slower, if it's safer, that's a good thing. So it shouldn't always be about time savings. Risk is another thing. If you want to go faster, but you create more errors, or create higher chance of errors or mistakes, that's not a good thing. So we always want safe, sustainable work that we can do over and over again at high quality. And the last one is simplify, S. And that was to make the work easier to complete by using visuals, aids, fixtures, and templates. So how can we bring the process down to a much simpler level? And this could be by taking some of the details out that are very helpful and nuanced for certain situations, but it just adds confusion to the process. So I've seen this in different operations too, is they'll have very lengthy instructions on how to do something, but we look at it and say, 80% of these are fairly the same. Why don't we just put it all under the same umbrella, and then just have the other specialized parts be called out in a different process? But for all these, it's good enough to just do this one standard approach. And so they don't have to learn 10 different methods. They have to learn 3 or 4. That can be a form of simplify. So ECRS is one of the approaches you can take. And there is a template you can use where you list out the different work elements and what you're trying to do and the improvement ideas. And then it has you kind of go through and check off which of those 4 are applicable. And you can mark more than one if you want. So you can check that out as well. I'll put the link in the show notes to the pages where you can read what I'm talking through on this podcast. So the other one is SPACER. So it's an acronym to remember how to make improvements to a process as well. This one is Standardize, Parallel Processing, Automate, Consolidate, Eliminate, Rearrange, and then sometimes I'll add an S to that called Simplify. So it's more of an expanded version of the ECRS. So in Standardize, you're taking process steps and finding a routine way of doing them. For Parallel, we're doing the same thing. We're trying to combine activities together. But not multitasking. That's not what we're trying to go for. But maybe if there's delays or waiting time involved, we could work on something else in the meantime. Automate was the third one. So we're replacing a human task with a machine or tool or computer system. Consolidate is combining two processes into one. Eliminate is deleting or removing a non-value added element. We talked about that. Rearrange is organizing the workflow order and location based on the sequence of steps. And simplify is making a complex task easier to perform. There's also a version of SPACER that's for having good meetings or training classes, where S is for safety, so we make sure no one gets hurt. P is for purpose. Why is everyone here? What do you hope to get from this meeting or class? A is agenda. What are we doing? How long will each section take to complete? C is conduct. What is the rules and guidelines for the attendees to ensure full participation? E is expectations. What does the attendees want or expect to get out of the class or the meeting? And roles. Who is managing the agenda, facilitating, or being the timekeeper? So this can also work for events, process improvement events. I've also seen one called SPACER that's scope, purpose, agenda, communication, expectations, and roles. It's a little bit different. And finally, there's one more called SCAMPER or SCAMPER with the 2 R's, which describes thinking techniques that help those who use them to help come up with untypical or unusual solutions to problems. So the first is substitute, where we remove some part of the accepted situation, thing, or concept and replace it with something else. Combine, we talked about, we join or affiliate or force together 2 or more elements and consider ways that such a combination might move you towards a solution. Adapt, change some part of your problem so that it works where it did not work before. Modify, consider many of the attributes of the thing you're working on and change them arbitrarily if necessary. Consider this like an experiment to try out different things. So these attributes might include the size or shape or dimension or texture or color or attitude or position or history. Purpose, sometimes called put to other use, where we modify the intention of the subject. Think about why it exists, what it's used for, what it's supposed to do, challenge all these assumptions, and suggest new and unusual purposes. E is eliminate. We talked about that. Arbitrarily remove any or all elements of your subject. Simplify, reduce down to the core functionality. Reverse would be change the direction or orientation. So turn something upside down, inside out, make it go backwards against the direction it was intended to go or be used. And rearrange, modify the order of operations. So the one that's with the second R on there. So if you take out the rearrange part, then you have SCAMPER. And there's a couple links to some articles on here as well. But these are just good acronyms to try and remember as you're thinking about improvements on things that you could try or test out or help your team think about as you're trying to come up with solutions to certain problems. So I hope those were helpful. Again, check the links in the show notes if you want to read these articles and these summaries and find the links to that template or read more about some of these methods. Talk to you later.
LeanSixSigmaDefinition.com has a list of glossary items about popular process improvement terms, along with a history of Lean and Six Sigma methods, and key influencers like Dr. Edward Deming, Henry Ford, Taiichi Ohno, Shigeo Shingo, and many more. You can also learn how to access affordable Lean and Six Sigma training and certification. Visit LeanSixSigmaDefinition.com.